Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hoop het gaan goed saam met julle mense van die Kaapse vlakte. Cape Flip Stories International Worldwide. Man, it's the start of a new show, Cape Flip's Live, Stories Live. And I'm very excited for our matriculants. Matriculants, well done. If you didn't pass, you go right again. I failed twice. Standard 1 and standard 6. And I finished school and look where I'm at today. And I would like to actually encourage you guys to dream. Don't stop dreaming. You know, we have this thing where we stop dreaming because things are not going good. You know, I didn't know what I was going to do after school. There was no money. But then a pastor, I don't know how I met him, said to me, I'm going to pay for you. And he managed to pay for my studies. So don't give up. Dream. And then I want to talk about something also that was an issue last week. And Yusuf actually made a note about it, about the pools that was closed. So I'm going to talk to the mayor later on about that, you know. But I want to encourage you guys that you need to use your platforms to speak up. And you need to use your platforms to do good. You know, many times we have these platforms, we have thousands of followers, but we don't do good. We just think about ourselves, and we need to stop being selfish. But without any further ado, before I introduce the mayor, I just want to quickly go to Yusuf and his voice note. Just listen quickly to what he says.
Hey Stan, I trust you are well, and thanks for having me. Just want to, chat about how happy I actually am that the Westridge pool finally opened up. It was, for me, it was just such a concern. I did something in Eastridge, and on my way back from there, I thought to myself, I heard that these pools are closed, and surely in the middle of school holidays, early January, it's highly impossible that is true. So I thought, let me go look for myself, and I dove past Westridge Baths, and as I pulled up there, it was a very sad scene, I grew up in Portland, so we used to walk to Westridge Baths all the time, every day, and especially in summer, while we were on school holidays, that was our time, that passed our time, you know what I mean, and we loved it, and we grew up like that. And then I thought, nah, man, it's impossible that this will be closed. Mense praat nonsense. And I went to go check, and Stan, as I promise you, it was actually heartbreaking to see gates closed. There's a woman that just arrived there with 2 prams, 2 little kids, and 2 kids under 10 as well. And I spoke to her, and she said, no, they promised it'll be open on this date and that date, and it's still not open. And I'm thinking to myself, nah, man, iemand doen nie hulle werk hier nie. Stan, it's not about where you live and who you are, but you must remember, we all have different circumstances. Some of these people are privileged enough to get into their car, drive to the beach. Some are privileged enough to have bus fare, taxi fare to get to the beaches. But Stan, times are beyond tough, my brother. And I personally know of so many people that's struggling just to make ends meet, that's living from hand to mouth. Now, no telefiekens om agter te kyk. No, I mean, every day, how do you manage that? At least a few hours of their day, spend it where they're laughing, swimming, and just having fun. And the parents can actually relax also, not stress about their daily struggles. Do you know what I mean? Just forget about it. So if this is that little thing that makes us forget about our struggles, then why the hell is it closed in the heart of summer? But yeah, thank goodness then I did a post, and I see if 2-3 days later it was open. I don't say it's because of me, but I do believe if we have a platform like yourself, we need to put it out there so people can wake the fuck up. I'm sorry for swearing, but you know what? There's no other way to say it. We keep doing what we're doing. We try and help where we can. I will be the voice for the voiceless. We've got a beautiful platform, and we use our platform not just for ourselves. This platform is never just about us. It's about helping others. And God has given us this, blessed us with it, and we will keep using it. And thank you for you also, Stan, for doing what you're doing. And have a lekker day. Ciao.
With the Yushi, shukran for that. We have made a note about it. I always say that's constructive criticism, and it's good to have constructive criticism. But before we go there, I want to introduce you to a young man next to me. His name is Geordin. Mayor, welcome to Cape Flip Stories.
Thank you very much, Stan. Thank you for having me, man. Nice to be here.
We had you on the show the first time 4 years ago,
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
myself and Byron.
Yes.
And that was, I think, in 2001, just before you were basically running for the mayor.
2001, I was in high school.
2001.
Yeah, 2021.
2021. Mayor, tell me quickly, take us back. What made you decide to run for mayor? Why did you take this position?
So, Stan, I was in Parliament, and I was working on finance issues. That's my background and my training, really. And I was on the finance committee and had been doing that for several years. I had loved that job, but I felt more and more worried about the direction of South Africa. And I had in the interim, I had a young daughter. I had a daughter, my first child, and like so many of us, we were worried, my wife and I, as to whether this is a good place for her to grow up. Is it safe? Is there going to be opportunity for her? Is it going to be a working country, basically? And I must be honest, I felt more and more frustrated in Parliament that I couldn't do anything. When you're in Parliament, especially as a member of the opposition, you are arguing all day and you're debating. And I love debating. There's no problem with that. But you're getting maybe 5% of what you want to get done, actually done. Maybe even 3%. So I just felt this rising frustration. And I thought either I have to get out of politics altogether and go and do something more productive and something where I feel I can make an impact, or I have to think about a different path in politics. And that's when the cogs started turning about whether I should try to actually move into government and run for a position in Cape Town. And this was kind of late 2020, early 21.
Yes.
And then obviously not many people in Cape Town had heard of me at that point. I was an MP, but on the finance portfolio, whoever listens to the finance portfolio. So I knew that it was like an unlikely thing. I was coming from the outside. But I prayed about it a lot. I spoke to my friends and family about it. I wrote down pages and pages of what is it that I think that we need to do in Cape Town if I do this. And eventually I decided, you know what? If we're going to turn South Africa around, more and more young people have to stand up and say, we're prepared to actually take a risk. The worst that can happen is that it doesn't work out. And then I'll, do something else. So I thought, I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to dive in. And I did.
Yeah. And 4 years later, I think it's 4 years later.
It's 3 years later.
3 years later.
3 years later, yeah.
I think October will be 5 years.
4 years, yeah.
4 years.
Yeah.
But was there any challenges that thus far, I believe it wasn't that easy, but was the challenges that actually made you think, man, did I make the right decision? Because
No.
we get a lot of criticism.
No, that doesn't. Criticism is absolutely fine, and a lot of the criticism is well-meaning, and a lot of the criticism is valid. Like Yusuf's that we've just heard is valid. A lot of the criticism is also just nasty and malicious, and that doesn't really impact me. That's like water off a duck's back, honestly. Because I like to listen to people's, what are their intentions, what is their heart, and then I take that criticism. But there has not been a moment that I have regretted it. Well, let me just, maybe that's not entirely honest. The one thing that has been difficult is the personal sacrifice of family time. And that's very important to me. That's where I draw my strength from. And so, when you're not seeing your family once the entire week, every morning you're leaving before the sun rises and you're coming home after the sun sets. That can get difficult. But other than that, I must say, I have loved it. It's exactly what I wanted. It's meaningful. It's purposeful. I love it.
You're quite a hands-on guy.
Yes.
Like you love to work in the community. How has the community treated you? Because I know they love you. If I go on your Instagram, if I go on your Facebook, there's a lot of positive comments. How has the community accepted you the last few years as the mayor?
Incredibly kindly and warmly. The amount of warmth and affection and love that I feel from the Cape Town community is really very overwhelming and makes me quite emotional. And I really am so grateful for that, because I know that it's probably not always going to be like that in politics. Politics has a funny way of turning, but you know, it helps to genuinely love people, Stan. So you know, I'm genuinely interested in the lives of people. I like to hear about what's going on in their life. Everyone has a fascinating story. If you just ask a few questions,
Yeah.
you scratch below the surface.
Yeah.
You know, we can find out one another's true life stories very quickly. And so I love that, and I think people can sense that kind of genuine care for people. So it's been wonderfully warm. I really must be extremely grateful and feel blessed. Only once in 3 years now has anyone screamed at me in public. Only once. And you will not believe what it was about.
What was it about?
You posted about it recently. I had a good chuckle. It was about baboons.
Oh, okay, yes. That's quite a big problem, mate. That's quite. I get messages every day about the baboon.
It is the only time in 3 years that someone has actually shouted at me in public. And you know, so you got to take the rough with the smooth.
The baboons, maybe just dwell a bit there. The baboons is becoming a bit out of hand.
Yes,
the situation,
yeah.
because they are moving to the Cape Flats. you get guys coming from wherever.
I didn't want to start a baboon discussion now, because then your WhatsApp line is gonna go crazy.
It's quite a big condition. Yeah. I'm in contact with some of the people that runs these pages, because they follow me as well. Is there any plans that you guys have? Because it's becoming not an issue only for the baboons, for the safety of the people, but when these animals come into our communities, they're either going to get shot, because we know the guns are traveling around here, or they're going to be thrown with like stones. What is there a plan, to mitigate that these animals don't get hurt?
The bottom line is that there are too many of them in Cape Town now.
Okay.
Because many years ago there would have been leopards on the mountain, and the leopards kept the population in check naturally.
Yeah.
Now there's no predators on the mountain, so the population has exploded on the mountain, and so because there's a lack of food up on the mountain, they come down the mountain into the communities to look for food. That's the central problem.
Yes.
So you have to remove some of the population. And we are trying to work with Sandparks. Remember, Sandparks runs the mountain.
Yeah.
So the animals kind of belong to Sandparks. So in the same way that when you read stories or you see stories online of a lion escaped from Kruger Park, Sandparks has to deal with that animal because it comes from their park. But we are working collaboratively with Sandparks, and we are trying to reach agreement to move a whole lot of them to other Sandparks facilities around the country. That will really alleviate the issue. But of course, there's a whole nother group of people in Cape Town who will freak out if you say that, and they're going to freak out if
they are actually going to freak out.
Don't you touch them? They belong here. We must all leave. It's us that are the intruders. So it's a big.
And that is what I've been getting a lot, Maya, is that people feel that we are living in their habitat.
Yeah.
But I mean, we are all going to have to sit down and find a solution. Because us fighting against one another is not really going to be a solution. So I do hope that you sort this out. Luckily, it's not for me to sort it out. But this is what I want to ask you, Maya. As we have plans for everything, the safety and security plans for the Cape Flats, or for Cape Town, is there any plans that we have that is going to be implemented? Crime has gone out of control. If you look at what's happening with the Uber drivers, we have these youngsters,
We caught those guys, by the way.
They caught us, but there was one guy was actually killed. This happened in my road 2 weeks ago. They tried to rob an Uber driver, and the driver took out his gun. They killed the one, and the other one actually shot. And this is becoming a big problem, because if you look at the footage coming out now, it was a friend of mine over the weekend as well. What plans is there, to protect, first of all, the Uber drivers and the passengers as well, because this can become a problem for the passengers as well. Is there any safety measures?
Well, I mean, that's a much more important issue than the issue we were just discussing about baboon control. But the crime situation in South Africa is really bad. Let's just look at it at root causes before we talk about policing.
Yeah.
Because very often we rely on a discussion around policing when you're not going to police your way out. There's not enough police officers in the country to police our way out of this crime situation. What you have to have is a growing economy that delivers hope and opportunity to people. That is what's going to bring down crime and every other social problem, poverty, unemployment, alcoholism, you name it, is going to come down when the economy goes up, when we have a growing, prosperous country. That is why we are such passionate supporters of this government of national unity, because it gives our country the best opportunity we've had in decades to actually come out of this mess and start to grow again as a country and as an economy. At a city level, remember, SAPS is the overall national body that has the constitutional responsibility for crime fighting and crime prevention. At a city level, we are actually supposed to do what's called bylaw and traffic enforcement. In Cape Town, we have for a long time, many years already, gone way past bylaw and traffic enforcement to try and pick up the slack. If you think of kind of the policing that is needed and the policing that we have, that gap, we try to fill in some of that gap with the limited resources that we have and the offices that we have in the city. And the best way to do that is to focus them where the problem is the worst. And we've had some encouraging results. We've in the last 3 months of 2024, we had 144 guns off the streets just in Hanover Park and in Manenberg. So we've had a lot of successes, but still the reality of violent crime is still far, far, far too high in Cape Town. And we're just going to carry on using the very limited resources we have to focus where we think we can make the biggest impact, where the problem is most severe, and try to bring gun crime and violent crime down in those areas. In some areas, it is ticking down, so it's not true that it's going up everywhere, like it is in most of South Africa. But there are parts of Cape Town where it is actually going down, and there's other parts of Cape Town where it's unfortunately not. So we've still got a lot of work to do. One thing that we found, and I know you and I have discussed this before, so I'll just summarize it. When I asked the Metro Police Chief, basically, give me a number, give me how many guys do you need?
Yeah.
And I'll try and find a way to fund it. I'll never forget, he said to me, there's no way you're ever going to afford the number of people we actually need. The way you have to do it is to use technology, because technology for a smaller amount of investment can give you the same as 2 or 3 officers, the same impact. Yeah. And so I've really bought into that theory and that thesis, and we've investing heavily in technology in the Metro Police. We have got technology that, no SAPS officer in South Africa has got a basic tool like centralized computerized dispatch. So when you notionally, if anyone, I don't think anyone does this anymore, but if you call 10111, they call a local police station. The police station calls the officer in the wagon, in the van, and that officer has to respond. That's how they do dispatch. That is like 1980s dispatch. We are doing centralized computer dispatch. That's like the basics, and much more on top of that. So we'll keep on investing. We'll keep on focusing, and hopefully play a bigger role in bridging that gap between the policing that we need over here and the policing that we have, which is way back over there.
But now that you all are part of the GNU, is there a relationship between law enforcement and SAPS? Because I think that is what we need. We need law enforcement and SAPS, just to cut out the political side, and to work together to ensure the safety of people in Cape Town.
Much better. It's been really night and day. Let me give you some examples. Firstly, we had no cooperation under Becky Tele. The removal of Becky Tele was like a flicking a switch on cooperation. All of a sudden, station commanders who used to always work with us, but secretly, because they were going to get into trouble from their bosses, now they're openly inviting our officers to their morning planning meetings, to their joint operations in the communities. They're calling us. They're saying, we need your assistance in this investigation. Can you help us find this person? Can you trace this vehicle? Whatever it is, from small things to big things. Really, we've seen much, much greater cooperation. And I'm very, very enthusiastic and optimistic about that. Of course, it still yet hasn't translated into greater powers, which is what we keep asking for. We want formal transfer of investigative powers to the Metro Police so that we can start to fully investigate cases which we currently are not permitted to do and prepare dockets for court. That we think would be a game changer because unfortunately most of the criminal justice weakness in South Africa is in the court system. That's where cases go to die. You never get prosecutions, cases are dismissed. We all know the story. So if we can prepare those cases better, we think that we will have better success in putting criminals away, gangsters away, behind bars. So I'm very pleased with the improvement in cooperation that we've got.
I remember your slogan for that time when you started as mayor, when you ran for mayor, you said you're going to make this the best place to do business. And that is maybe something that I want to talk about because when you talk about business, it means more employment, it means more people
Correct.
can have jobs. How has that been the last 3-4 years? It's not easy because we all know that these things take time to build business. And we just came out of lockdown as well. So how has the business sector been in Cape Town? Because I know a lot of jobs were created, but also a lot of people have influx from all over to come and work in Cape Town.
So I think this is the thing that I've probably been most excited about. We've more than 300,000 more new jobs in the city since November 2021 when I was sworn in as mayor. 300,000 people. Many of those people, I know when we talk about numbers like that, it's like 300,000 is difficult to imagine how many people that is. 6 times the filling up DHL Stadium with new jobs. But what was really very moving was I said, instead of just talking about numbers, I want to meet some of these people who have got jobs for the first time. And actually, I was on similar to this, I was on a radio station when a young lady from Delft called in. And she said, I just want you to know that I think she was 32 years old, and I've just got a job for the first time, my first job. I can look after my my baby. And that hit me so hard when you hear that. So I set about meeting a lot of these new Cape Townians who got work for the first time, and it was very, very cool to meet so many young people. So that's gone well. I think that's the thing that we've probably maybe an infrastructure for the city's future. Those two things are the things that we can be most proud of. The Cape Town economy is booming despite the national economy doing nothing. The national economy is still flatlining and has been for 10 years. That is the central cause of everything, most things that are putting South Africa under so much pressure, that are putting families under so much pressure. It's the fact that we have not had a growing economy in 10 years or more. And that is the big pressure that the GNU must feel. But Cape Town is growing despite the national economy flatlining. And we're seeing very good investment. Most of the construction jobs in the country are here. Most of the tourism jobs in the country are here, and more coming. So I'm encouraged by that.
And I think the thing is this, that we can see people are working. We can see also that people are running to Cape Town for better opportunities because there's more people from all over coming here.
Yes.
So there's obviously opportunities because people are not going to run from a place where there is opportunities. And that brings me to the following question, Mayor, is that we have also a shortage of schools. And I mean also that was also a conversation we had, you used the Cura model. What are we doing about building more schools? Because like my own example is I live in Strandfontein. My boy, you know him, he has to travel from Strandfontein to Heathfield. And it's difficult. Like I can afford it maybe still, but there's a mom that can't afford it. And in my neighborhood, in most of the Cape Flat schools, you have more primary schools than high schools because we know why that was built. But what are we doing to build more high schools? Is there a plan? I mean, I know it's national government, but how is the city the DA keeping national government accountable?
It's not national government. So just to be clear, the city does not have any role in education at all in South Africa. No municipality does. The education is at a provincial government level.
Okay.
So, but I recognize that if we want to fix South Africa, we have to have better education and we have to have more schools. So we have said, what can we do as a city to help? Even though it's not our mandate, even though it's not constitutionally our job, what can we do with what we have to help? Taking the same approach to policing, how can we help fill the gap? And so what I've said to the provincial government is, firstly, a couple of commitments. You can have any land that you want for a school for free.
Okay.
we will give any land to the provincial government for a new school for free. And we've done that many times now. I've honored that commitment. I'm on the record. We've handed over many pieces of land. Secondly, I said one of the delays in building new schools was that the city was taking so long to approve the building plans and the designs and everything. I said, it is no way that it can take a year to 18 months to approve a new school. So I took one of our most senior planners in the city, and I took him out of the planning department. We are paying his salary, but he's sitting full time in the Western Cape Education Department, just doing new school approvals, to make sure that if they submit a plan for a new school, it must go straight through the system. It must fly. And that's all he does. And so we have made a real tangible investment in the small way that we can to try and help speed up new school builds in the city. And I think we are getting there. I'm sure you've seen and heard about the Western Cape's Rapid School Build program. They are getting a lot of traction. They've got some extra money from the national government to fund it. So I think we will see a speed up of schools in the future. Of course, it doesn't answer the question of how you staff those schools, because it's all well and good to have a building, but you've got to have a headmaster, you've got to have 30 or 40 teachers, so you've got to have all those posts, and that's a whole different discussion. But from our side, from the city, we are doing what we can to speed up new schools.
But like you said, so we know that 2,500 teachers are going to obviously be retrenched, or they're going to lose their jobs, and that is what, because there's a budget shortage. How will that affect the future? I mean, we spoke about crime. In my community, many of the young people in my community don't go to school. I mean, you have youngsters at 12, 11 years old not going to school now, taking away some of the teachers. How would that affect our community? And also, is the city planning on maybe taking money from somewhere else to keep some of these teachers on? Or
remember, again, teachers are employed by the Western Cape Education Department, not by the city.
Okay.
So we don't fund any teachers. We really have very, very little to do with the public education system. It's not a constitutional mandate of the city. It's squarely in the provincial government. But obviously, I've been following this debate. As I said, we are concerned. We understand we have to fix education. The problem, again, it comes back to, I'm going to bring it back to our country's economy and finances. What has essentially happened is that the national government keeps budgeting for a 0% salary increase for public servants, of which there are about 2.5 million in South Africa, teachers, nurses, police officers, and so on. And what they do is they then have a fight with the unions about a wage bargaining process. They then agree on, let's say, whatever it is, 5%. But they don't update the budget. The budget was set at 0% increase. So the money that they give to the provinces for education and healthcare, the money that they give to police for police officers, doesn't increase, even though they've made the increase of 5% with the unions. So they just say, well, jy moet net die geld vind. You must just make a plan. And you can make a plan 1 year. You can make a plan 2 years, maybe. You can scrape and cut and beg and borrow. But you can't do that all the time. Eventually, you've got to face the fact that we're running out of money. And the reason, again, is because you're not getting the growth in revenues that comes from economic growth. So this is what has happened. And it's really, it's an outrageous thing. I think we have not really been honest in South Africa about the scale of our crisis in public finance, and it's now starting to come home to roost.
It's eventually catching up with us.
Yeah.
So, like we spoke earlier on, so many of the people are coming from wherever they come live in Cape Town. There's better opportunities. However, this becomes a problem for the city and for the people living in Cape Town. Land invasion is quite big. You have quite a lot of people taking land, grabbing land. Also causing a bit of
tensions,
division, because some people are using this now, saying yes, but this one, that one. What are we doing about the land invasion, and also with the housing? Because I mean, we still have grandmothers living in under Cape flats in little houses, 7, 8 of them in a little 1-bedroom house for the last 30 years. What is the plans to get housing development quicker, Aldi?
Okay, so let's do that's two related, connected, but separate things. Firstly, on land invasions. The city has a dedicated land invasion, anti-land invasion team. We do not use, let me just say for the record, we don't use contractors like Red Ants and else like other companies like that that are used elsewhere in South Africa. We have our own internal team in law enforcement, and they remove literally thousands and thousands of land invasion structures every year. The JP uses a stat, which I hope I'm not going to get this wrong now, but they've removed the same amount of structures as the size of the city of Bloemfontein since COVID and now. That's how many structures that they've removed. So it is a relentless, thankless job, but they carry on doing it. But you are right; it does cause a lot of tensions. And it's just something that we have to keep on enforcing the law. You cannot just occupy a piece of land or a building that does not belong to you. That is no way to run a successful society. Then you've got the situation of many people who are on the housing waiting list and who have been for a very long time, and the fact that of all the new housing development, very, very little of it is focused on the affordable segment of the market.
Yeah.
So we have really tried to focus our efforts on how we speed up affordable segment housing delivery. Because the thing is, there are literally hundreds of thousands of people in Cape Town. We all know this, who actually do have a job. They do have a job. They have a decent job, but they cannot find anything that they can rent at a decent price, or any place that they can get at a decent price on the market. So we've got to get that affordable housing market. It's not all about free housing. Because remember, free housing is paid for by the state. And so it's very limited as to how much of that we can build. It just depends on how much budget we get.
Yeah.
And if you look at the budgets for free, fully subsidized, what we used to call RDP, we now call B&G housing, the budget allocations for that are going down and down all the time. So that is very limited. We'll carry on spending all that money, and we do, but where the real opportunity is just above that, at the affordable segment, where there are people who can afford places but can't find any place. There are hundreds of thousands of Cape Townians like that, and that is where I'm focusing my time and effort.
Have you ever thought of, overseas, people are building container houses. Container houses is quite big. Even in Cape Town, I don't know if it's expensive, but have that ever been an idea that the city has maybe looked at? Because, our people need urgently houses, and also like you spoke earlier on about, people can't afford. Affordability is something that people, a person that earns 5,000 rand can't really afford to go to work, feed their family, and buy a house. Are we looking at them as well? How can we make these people inclusive? Because I think people are feeling a bit despondent. What's happening in Cape Town? A lot of good things are happening, but it feels that things are not happening to us. Things are not happening for us. Has the city included the people of the Cape Flats also in the bigger plan to create more jobs, housing subs? Because you always read on Facebook, people are saying, but I didn't get a house, I'm waiting for 30 years, 40 years. How are we navigating this?
So our entire obsession, Stan, is about how to grow this economy to get more people out of poverty and into work in Cape Town. Every single thing that we do every day is obsessed with that. And when I say to you that 300,000 people, including that young lady from Delft, are in work since November 21 and now, more than 300,000 people, the overwhelming majority of those are poor people living on the Cape Flats that have benefited from those jobs. So they are absolutely included, and positive things are absolutely happening to them. All of the huge, overwhelming majority of our infrastructure investment, the country's biggest public transport project in the whole of South Africa right now, happening on the Cape Flats. The country's biggest sewer project in the whole country right now, Cape Flats mainline sewer upgrade, happening right now on the Cape Flats. So there's big projects happening, all to the benefit of people on the Cape Flats. But again, I'm going to sound like a stuck record, but this is true, and we need to understand this as a country and as a people. Until you have a government that is obsessed with a growing economy and is lifting people, their quality of life, their standard of life, it is really, really tough for one city alone to do that. The fact that we are doing that, despite the fact that we have a failing national economy, is frankly amazing. And how much more could we do? And this is why I'm excited about 2025, because I think we are going to start to see a growing economy at last. How much more we could do if we had just a 2% or a 3% or, amazing, a 4% growing economy nationally. Well, you would feel those boats rising for everyone. That's where we've got to get to. But despite that, we are pouring our time, our effort, our passions, our resources into investing in and uplifting the people of the Cape Flats.
Awesome. Maya, I just want to go to a couple of questions because I want the audience also to ask questions. But
Absolutely.
I'm not going to ask rude questions. To be honest with you guys, it needs to be constructive. I've got quite a few questions. If you guys have questions, put it in the comment section. I will definitely read it out for the mayor.
None of your viewers would send rude questions, I'm sure.
There is one or two people, and you know that.
Yes, I can almost name them without even looking.
And before we go forward, how do you deal with like we spoke earlier, we need to be constructive. I can't come to you and call you names and stuff. How do you deal with these trolls? Because they come to me as well. I will be told later on I'm a DA supporter because of my questions.
Sure.
How do you deal with that?
As I said to you earlier, Stan, it doesn't bug me. It doesn't bother me. You must understand, if you are going to enter into a role in which you are in the public eye, you're going to get trolls. And there's a whole lot of people out there in the world, not just in Cape Town, who are only interested in mocking, swearing, insulting, shouting. They're not interested in a positive, constructive discussion. So I'm afraid those people have got zero impact because they're just in one ear, out the other ear, water off a duck's back. It doesn't get to me at all. I don't engage them. When they, most of Cape Town has my cell phone number, so the WhatsApps fly in. But those people, I kind of just block them immediately. So again, what I said earlier, I'm interested in someone's heart. If I can hear that they're cross and angry, but they actually have a point, they have a valid, there's something there that I need to look at. Very happy to take that. Very, very happy to engage. But not with just some shouting, swearing troll.
Yeah. And I think it's very important, and it makes it difficult because we don't have a lot of time. So we want to listen to constructive criticism. I've got something here. Somebody asked me a question, Anthony Paulser. You need to then build the houses. You budgeted 554 million rand. In 2023, the housing project is still to date not off the ground.
Where is that?
It's in Ottery. Apparently, there's an article that was in the papers that the city is going to build housing 2023 in Ottery. Project was 54 million rand. There is the affordable houses that the mayor talks about. So he's talking about, it's an article that I saw a while back that the city was going to spend 54 million rand on building houses in Ottery. Any idea what is happening there? Because I think there's a bit of a delay.
Well, if we said that in 2023, I presume we are still going to do that. I can phone and check quickly if you want to hang on the line, Mr. Paulser. But if that's what we said, I have no doubt that we will do that. But these housing projects take a long time to get all the approvals necessary, all the planning, the zoning, you name it. So, but 2023 is not that not that long ago. So I presume that project is still happening. But I'm very happy to just take your number and let you know, or even get an answer now.
And then there's another question. Ask the mayor how he feels about the emergency housing program being declared unconstitutional in December of last year.
So, okay, this is a good question, and I suspect it's a loaded question. So let me just take a minute to explain it. The emergency housing program of the city was not declared unconstitutional. Insofar as it relates to one private eviction, let me double underline that and put an exclamation mark. A private eviction in Woodstock, nothing to do with the city of Cape Town. But in South Africa, in our legal system, And I think most of your readers, your listeners and viewers would agree that this is a tough thing.
Yeah.
In South Africa, under our legal system, even in a private eviction, the municipality where you live, anywhere in South Africa, has to provide emergency accommodation in a private eviction as well. Now just think about what that means.
Yeah.
In a city of 5 million people, how many people are in dispute with their private landlord? The city is not part of that dispute, but we have to provide the alternative emergency accommodation. So we do that where we can.
Yeah.
We can't do it where you live. That's, I think, a basic point. The Constitutional Court fortunately found that we do not have to do it where you live. We do not have to do it. But in that particular case, in Woodstock, they said we should have tried, at least engaged with the residents to try and find a place near to Woodstock for them to stay. So we'll obviously do that. But importantly, the court said that does not set a precedent for every other case, because it is not possible for the city or any city to provide accommodation where you want if you are being evicted by a private landlord. Again, double underline, private landlords.
Now, yes, there's a few questions coming in here. Let me just go quickly on the chat here. Let me just check quickly. Okay. Lucille Abrams, Lulu Abrams, please ask the mayor how the DA City of Cape Town say they support small businesses and economic growth when they decline the pancakes permit application in Muizenberg. There's no regular traders on the beach, and Quentin of the Pancake has been querying for permits, but nobody assisted him.
Lulu, that's not true that we declined the permit. I really am a huge supporter of informal traders and small traders. I want them to be able to trade, but they cannot trade, again, they cannot trade in exactly the space that they want to, because it could be on a sidewalk that's busy, it could be interrupting traffic, it could be stopping car flow. And so I think reasonable people will agree that we want to help facilitate trading. We want the business to succeed, but maybe it needs to be 50 meters or 100 meters down the road, or to the left or to the right. I think in that case, it was something like 100 meters away that the city wanted him to trade. And that was the dispute. So it is not true that we don't want him to trade and succeed. I will personally go and buy pancakes from him myself and compare them to my own. But you can't just say to the city, I will trade here. It has to be where we say it's appropriate to do so.
Okay. Mayor Nancy Ras van die Kerk asks, can you ask the mayor if there is any plans to build an athletics track facility for Mitchell's Plain? We need one just like the Galitsa have. And I think saying that, I think not only for Mitchell's Plain, but some of the best athletes comes from Steenberg and Retreat, so we must not forget about them. But is there any plans to build a track?
Yes, there is. There is a plan to build a proper track, a competition quality track at Westridge Gardens at Stephen Regan.
Okay.
And that is in the city's plans for the years ahead. At the moment, our focus with our budget is on the reconstruction of the Strandfontein Pavilion.
Okay.
That is going to be a beautiful development and is going to be an essential, wonderful place for the community. Then I have really focused on getting these pools sorted, and I still want to come to Yusuf's issue. We've focused a lot of money on getting these pools sorted. We've got to fix some of the existing track facilities in Blue Downs, in Khayelitsha, in Belleville, and so on. But it is definitely our plan to build one at Westridge.
Okay. And then I
can't say about retreats for now, but Westridge definitely. Yeah.
I think because also Mitchell's Plain is quite big.
Yeah.
And they need a lot of recreational facilities, so I think it is welcome.
Yeah, and we recently fixed Lentegeur Sports Field was looking in terrible condition. When I became mayor, I went there and I was shocked at the condition of Lentegeur. And I hope that you've seen how nice it is looking now. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
The famous Collegians Club is back there, training there, playing. I don't know if they've had their first competition match there, but they're certainly training there. Hopefully they have competition matches there again soon. So that's wonderful. We've really put a lot of time and effort into fixing Lentegeur.
Nasita Anthony Ismail asked, Stanley, what's happening to the squatting being extended in Sequalo? Isn't that also private property? Why isn't the city helping the owner get rid of the squatters there? Maybe Maya can maybe just give an answer there.
Well, yes, it is private property. You're right. It's owned by a private businessman, and just like Igoli down the road, the problem is we are worried that private owners, private business people, allow a land occupation of their land, and then essentially force the city to buy an illegal occupation at a price that they determine, and which we have no control over, and then we have to accept that illegal occupation as fact,
Yeah.
and that it's permanent. Now, I think that sets a terrible precedent. We may as well put up a sign saying, welcome your land invasion here on my land, and then I can blackmail the city into paying me millions. Now, that particular owner wants the city to pay just an unreasonable and completely unfair amount of money for land that is effectively worthless. There is now nothing else that we can do with that land. So if ever there was a case for zero or near zero compensation, I think that would be Sikalo would be one of them.
The other question that also came through from Ali Williams. Mr. Meyer, how long must people be on a waiting list to get a house? I think there's a lot of people on the waiting list, but I know that the system is still with a backlog of I think 90 something, 98, 99.
I'm presuming it's Mr. Williams.
Mr. Williams, yeah.
Mr. Williams, it's about time that we have an honest conversation in South Africa about government housing. The free government housing, which is now called BNG, but it's just confusing. You and I know it as RDP houses, is funded by the state. It's funded by a grant. That grant has been going down every year for the last 10 years. The fact of the matter is, this is difficult to hear, but it is absolutely the truth, and I don't want to tell you a word of a lie. The fact of the matter is that the free government housing program is slowly but surely, over time, reducing almost to the point where at some point in the future it is going to shut down. That is a national fact. It is not a Cape Town fact or a Western Cape fact. It is a national fact that there has been less and less money allocated to totally free government housing every year. And that I don't think that trend is going to change. So the money that we receive, we spend in full. We do not send any of it back. You will often hear this misinformation. That is not the case. We spend our 95% or more every year. But it is delivering less and less, fewer and fewer houses because the amount is shrinking. That is why I'm saying, for me, the most important area of focus is that just above the free level, where people can afford to pay something, they can afford to pay a small amount of rent, but there is nothing available for them on the market. I think if we can unlock something there, we can move through the waiting list much, much quicker. And that is where I'm spending my time and effort, Mr. Williams.
And I think Wafik Pakri says here.
Yes, Mr. Pakri.
Mr. Pakri says, why don't we build these BNG houses in your constantias, in your sequence, in those areas?
Well, we're actually busy doing one of the most remarkable land reform projects in the whole of South Africa in Bishop's Court. So Mr. Pakri is wrong.
He's wrong. Okay.
But he's one of the ones that I would have expected to message if you had told me that the lines are open. But no, I'm afraid he is just mistaken. The city is contributing, paying for one of the most remarkable land reform projects in the heart of Bishop's Court. I don't think there is another project like it anywhere in South Africa. If I'm wrong, someone can point it out and point out where else houses like that are being built in such affluent areas. I don't think it's happening anywhere else but in Cape Town.
Alvinus Snellfontein, please ask the mayor when the tent in Voortrekker Road that
yes.
housed displaced migrants during COVID will be removed. Thank you. I think also that promises were made with the previous elections, and the videos are the tent will be removed, but from a political party. Many years 2 years, 3 years later, the tent is still there. I think that is what people want to know. When is this tent going to be removed? Because
But sorry, I didn't make
no,
that
no, no, no.
promise.
It was the Patriotic Alliance. Peter McKenzie said so.
Okay.
So we need to keep them accountable as well. But I think also, Maya, I think with all these squatting and people, there comes other elements as well. We need to be very honest about it, because when you put up a squatter camp, when you put up a tent, crime is going to rise. Those people don't work. And I think we must be honest. It's not about getting rid of people, but it's about also getting rid of the elements that is coming. So is there any plans to get this tent gone? Or?
Yes, there is, definitely. Thank you. I think it was Mrs. Snellfontaine for the question.
Yeah. It's not for them.
The tent is on Army land. From COVID up until I was elected as mayor, it is true that the city was paying for the rental of the tent on Army land. As soon as I heard about that, we stopped paying the rental. So we have not paid the rental nearly for 3 years for the tent. So since then I've been writing to the Minister of Home Affairs. It was then Aaron Motsoaledi. I went to see Minister Motsoaledi a couple of times, asked him to please do something about the tent. Because, the reason it's relevant to Home Affairs is because almost everyone living in the tent is not South African. They're actually illegal foreign nationals. And I got lots of big fist pounding promises from Minister Motsoaledi, maar net bloot niks het gebeur nie. There was just nothing. It used to take me months to get an answer from him. I would send him WhatsApps, please appoint a lawyer so that I can talk to a lawyer instead of talking to you. Never happened. So it was very frustrating. With the new minister, Schreiber, the new GNU Home Affairs Minister, we had instant attention to it. We have appointed an attorney. We've agreed that we will share the costs of the attorney, so we don't have to go through lengthy processes to each appoint our own one. We appoint the same one, we share the costs. We do the application to the court together. Home Affairs has already been there to do an assessment of who can be deported and who cannot, and who has to be processed in terms of our laws. And so finally, after much trying, just like at the castle, I assure all of your viewers, and I assure all Cape Townians, we are pushing all these issues all the time. My office is like a constant stream of letters and WhatsApps and phone calls to ministers saying, I'm on your case about this, that, the castle, the derelict buildings, you name it. Finally, we are getting some traction, Mrs. Snellfontaine, and I do think that we will be in court very soon because we finally do have the cooperation of Home Affairs and, of course, the military, whose land it actually is.
Okay. Now, yeah, then I've got two gentlemen. They're always on the show. The one gentleman is Teshwell. Welcome. He's got a very interesting question.
Welcome.
Welcome, yeah. Teshwell, welcome. Should be interesting. I have a non-political question I would like really to ask the mayor. How important is education on the Cape Flats to him personally, not his political party, but to him? Followed by, if teachers focus equally to IQ and EQ, emotional intelligence, would they foster better child on the Cape Flats? This will be his personal opinion. So what do you make out of IQ and EQ, but not a political?
I guess. Well, thank you, Mr. Welcome. And let me say, when I said earlier, my obsession is on how to get people out of poverty and into opportunity in South Africa. We can grow the economy, but we have to do that by fixing education as well. We cannot be. I know you started the show by saying congratulations to matriculants, and of course I echo that. But none of us can be happy with the state of education in South Africa when so many people never even make it to matric, and we still have a 30% pass rate. Let's be honest, that is unacceptable as a society. We cannot have that forever.
Yeah.
So I think it is incredibly important, Mr. Welcome, that we fix education. As for, I think you make an interesting point. It's not one that I've thought about in detail before, but I can say, living in the working world now, how important EQ is just as important as IQ. So it makes total sense to me what you say, that teachers need to focus on both.
Both. And then I want to ask you, there's a last question. I know we're almost running out of time. Paul Adams, not the cricket player, but Paul Adams, the businessman. Dear Mr. Mayor, well done on the work your Maycode is delivering. We are in the BPO space. And in spite of having solid track record in Strandford, and we are experiencing little to no support from the city, we were selected #1 supplier of rigorous process of your very own supplier readiness program 2023. Still zero support. My concern is simple. The financial service sector is seemingly heavily ring-fenced, and the big corporations are keeping the door shut for brown-skinned entrepreneurs like ourselves. Are you going to redress this perception in 2025?
Well, thank you, Mr. Adams, and I'm pleased that you went through our supplier development program, and I'm sorry that you haven't yet succeeded in any tenders. It's a competitive space, so you got to just keep at it. Remember that the way that governments tender in South Africa is extremely strictly controlled by the law. It has to go to the cheapest bidder. You will be very familiar with the various other factors that come into the scoring system, and so you got to just keep at it. And I'm confident that at some point you'll break through and get the opportunity that you need. And then for the corporate sector, it's hard for me to comment. I don't know much about how they procure, but certainly we'd be happy to use one of our networks in the business community, the Cape Chamber of Commerce, Accelerate Cape Town, to put together some kind of round table if you think that would be helpful for you to interact with some of the big corporates that operate in Cape Town.
Thank you, Mayor. We've come to an end. We are now 2 minutes to 9. Unfortunately, the questions are coming in, so I won't be able to ask all the questions. But Mayor, if you have time, maybe one of them can just go through the questions. Maybe if there's questions you want to answer, you can still do so via interaction. I
just want to say I really appreciate some excellent questions. I do a lot of these public engagements, and you don't usually get such questions that really go to the heart of the issue. And so I really appreciate all the questions and always enjoy being on your show, Stan.
Thank you, Mayor. What is the plans before the next elections? What can we expect from the Mayor? Because I think everybody is now, there's going to come people from all over that's going to compete for this role.
Yeah.
But if I don't speak to you again, what can you promise Cape Town? What are you going to do? What are the next, if they vote for you, what are you bringing to the table for 2026?
I'm sure we will speak again. I'm sure. But the passions and priorities that I have pursued for these first 3 years, I will definitely carry on pursuing. My obsession is infrastructure. I'm determined that Cape Town will not be the other cities that we see in South Africa where they have infrastructure collapse. And the huge majority of that investment is going to the Cape Flats communities and poorer communities in the city. And those projects, many of them are under construction. Some are starting now. And those projects will see through to completion by the end of the term. And that's creating tens of thousands of construction jobs. The most construction jobs in the whole of South Africa are now in Cape Town. That's mainly because we are investing so much in infrastructure. So that's definitely going to carry on. The work that we are trying to do to grow our economy, create more tourism jobs, hospitality jobs, BPO jobs, as Mr. Adams says, that is going to carry on. The work that we're investing in safety technology, focusing our efforts in the most crime-hit neighborhoods, that's going to carry on. So when we identified our priorities, we know exactly what Cape Town needs to prepare for the future and make it a successful city. And very importantly, the work that we're doing to unlock more affordable accommodation. That, I think, is going to start to show fruits, and I'm very excited about that. Because there's no other place, this is actually very exciting, there's no other place that I'm aware of in South Africa that is working on unlocking more affordable accommodation. Everyone is focused on how do we deliver this dwindling little budget of free government housing. And if we can get traction on that, I think it could make a real difference for Cape Town's future. So I love this city. I'm going to keep working every day, meeting Cape Townians, hearing their interesting stories. Lekker wonderlijke mensen, the best people, and loving the job.
Awesome.
That's what I'm going to carry on doing.
I just want to end off with this. Do you know that, and this is a study that somebody has done in the corporate world, most of the millionaires in Cape Town live in Mitchell's Plain in Khayelitsha. I don't know if you knew that.
Amazing. I did not know that. No.
So I was very fascinated about it. Meaning, it's if millionaires live in areas like that, it actually means that places is not so bad as we make it. Yes, we need to work together. And I think that this is where we have to come to a conclusion, is that we all are stakeholders here. And we also have to do our part. And I think this is where government needs to take hands with the citizens, because that's the only way. Education. You can make education available, but it doesn't really mean our people are going to take it. We need to also make sure our kids go and study. It's difficult, yes, for many of us, but I think also we need to have a hunger from government as well as from the local citizens. But Maya, thank you so much.
Thank you
for being here.
Thank you, man.
And
Thank you, everyone, for participating. Thanks for being great Cape Townians.
Thank you. And I couldn't ask all your questions. Please don't call me names later on.
They're going to.
They are going to. But I
Don't
can
worry
only
about
ask,
it.
I can only ask so many questions. But I think we've asked some of the most important questions, was the housing, the education. I can't tell you what I want to tell you. I must listen to the mayor. And you can't hear what you want to hear. It's all about, the mayor giving us their information. And we can come back again in a few months' time and actually see what has been done and track, if progress has been made. But thank you so much to you guys.
Thank
Have
you.
a blessed week. Everything of the best. Please go sleep early. The children must go to school tomorrow.
Yes.
And stand for Fokna. Cheers.
Cheers.
Maya, thank you so much.